Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into a topic that is the absolute foundation for anyone looking to scale from a backyard hobbyist to a serious poultry entrepreneur. I want to give a huge shout out to one of our community members, Mark, who left a comment that sparked this whole episode. Mark, like many of you, has realized that in the world of poultry farming, not everything that glitters is gold, and more importantly, not everything that wears white feathers is genetically the same. This is a massive hurdle that stops many producers in their tracks because, without understanding the science happening inside the nest box, you'll end up bleeding money, wasting time, and throwing away effort on crosses that simply don't deliver. Understanding genetics isn't just a luxury for lab scientists, it is a fundamental requirement for the breeder who wants their coop to be a profit center rather than a black hole for cash. Imagine you go out and buy a flock of white birds, thinking every white chicken behaves the same when you cross them. Then, suddenly, you're looking at a batch of offspring that completely shatters your projections, leaving you with a brooder full of roosters you can't tell apart from the hens. That's where the importance of business-minded genetics comes into play. Today, we are going to pull back the curtain on those white feathers and discover why knowing the difference between a dominant inhibitor gene and a silver gene is the secret sauce to making your layer production successful and profitable from the very first day that chick hits the ground. Get ready, because what we're covering today is a masterclass that will change how you look at every bird in your yard, giving you a massive competitive edge over the folks who are still just guessing and hoping for the best. To start solving this puzzle, we have to talk about the undisputed queen of white layers, the Leghorn. Almost everyone who has ever stepped foot on a farm knows the Leghorn. They are sleek, they have that pristine white plumage, and their egg-laying capacity is legendary, having dominated the industry for decades. But what most people miss is that the white on a Leghorn is what we call dominant white, caused by an inhibitor gene known as I. This gene is like a powerful absolute mask. Think of it this way. The bird has internal genetic blueprints to be black, red, or barred. But this inhibitor gene steps in and says, none of those colors are allowed to show. It's a layer of white paint so thick that it hides everything underneath, no matter what it is. This is why, when a breeder tries to get creative and crosses a white Leghorn rooster with a Rhode Island red hen, that deep, beautiful mahogany red we all love, the result is usually a total, and often frustrating, surprise for the person who doesn't understand the science. Nearly every single one of those offspring will hatch out white. You might see a tiny smudge here or there, maybe a stray gray speck or a faint golden tint on the hackles as they mature, but visually, the white wins the battle from the moment they fluff up. Why? Because that Leghorn inhibitor gene is dominant. It only takes one parent carrying it for it to manifest in the next generation, effectively switching off the red pigment of the Rhode Island red. Now, for the breeder who just wants white birds, this might seem fine. But for the entrepreneur looking for efficiency, this is where the logistical nightmares and cash flow problems begin. With this specific type of white, the Leghorn white, it is practically impossible to tell the boys from the girls at hatch just by looking at their down. They all hatch out yellow, looking identical to the naked eye, and that forces you into one of two expensive corners. You either wait weeks for them to grow out while you burn through feed, or you pay a professional vent sexer to come in and do the job for you. Building on this idea of the Leghorn's inhibitor gene, you've got to realize that while this gene is great for keeping a breed looking pure and white, it's a brick wall when it comes to auto-sexing crosses. When we talk about poultry as a business, every single ounce of feed counts. The margin of profit can vanish in the first 30 days of a chick's life if you aren't careful. Feeding a cockerel that you have no intention of using for meat because it's from a light, flighty egg-laying line, under the mistaken belief that it's a future layer, is one of the fastest ways to lose money. Imagine the overhead of brooding and feeding 100 chicks for a month, only to realize that 50 of them are roosters with zero market value in your egg-laying business model. At today's prices, that's hundreds of dollars in feed and labor just gone. The Leghorn's dominant white is so aggressive that it erases the natural clues nature gives us to tell the sexes apart. If you cross a Leghorn with any colored breed, you are flying blind for the first several weeks, wasting valuable time that you could have spent selling those pullets with a sex guarantee. I see so many breeders get frustrated because they think, well, if the dad is white and the mom is red, the offspring should be different based on their sex to balance things out. The answer is a hard no when you're dealing with dominant white. This inhibitor gene doesn't care about sex or hierarchy. Its only job is to ensure that melanin, the pigment that colors feathers, never gets deposited. It's like trying to paint a wall red, but someone has already treated that wall with a high-tech sealant that repels any dye you throw at it. No matter how much red you try to inject through the father's or mother's genetics, that wall is going to stay white, or, at best, look like a dirty white that doesn't help you with sexing at all. This is the big secret of the Leghorn, and the reason why, even though it's a world-class purebred layer, it is the wrong tool if your goal is to produce hybrids that can be sexed by color at hatch. But here is where things get truly interesting, and where many breeders miss out on a goldmine of an opportunity. There is another bird, the Rhode Island white, which to an untrained eye looks almost identical to a Leghorn. They are both white, they are both hardy, and they both lay well. However, genetically they are total opposites, like night and day. While the Leghorn uses an inhibitor mask to aggressively hide color, the Rhode Island white uses what we call the silver gene, or S. This gene isn't a total inhibitor in the same way. Instead, it's a gene that interacts with other colors in a very specific, very predictable way, especially when it meets gold and red. Understanding this technical distinction is what separates a common backyard breeder from a true poultry strategist who knows exactly what his results will be before the eggs even go into the incubator. The Rhode Island white is the ace up the sleeve for many of the most successful commercial sex-link programs in the United States and across the globe. Even though their adult feathers look white and might confuse you, their DNA isn't programmed for color silence, it's programmed for silver. And in poultry genetics, silver has a wonderful lucrative property. It is a sex-linked gene. This means the gene travels in a very orderly, mathematical way from parents to offspring, depending on whether the chick is a male or a female, effectively allowing us to color-code our birds. Unlike the Leghorn, where the white falls like a heavy blanket over everyone, hiding their identity, the silver gene in the Rhode Island white lets us play with the laws of inheritance to achieve exactly what we're looking for: absolute efficiency and immediate separation. When a breeder realizes that the white in their bird is actually silver and not a dominant inhibitor, a whole world of commercial possibilities opens up that was previously invisible. You're no longer working in the dark, and you aren't waiting for a rooster's comb to start growing while he eats your profits and takes up floor space. You are working with a biological precision tool. If you have a hen that is white because she carries the silver gene, and you cross her with a rooster that carries the gold or red gene, something incredible happens the moment they pip that shell. They don't all hatch out yellow and identical. Instead, genetics acts like a precision paintbrush, labeling the sex of the bird directly onto its down feathers. This clear distinction is the foundation of the world-famous red sex links, or golden comets, you see in every major hatchery catalog. And it's what allows us to maximize every single cent invested in our brooders from minute one. For this system to truly work and become a consistent moneymaker in your operation, we need to talk about the how-to of applying the silver gene in a real-world setting. As we've established, the Rhode Island white isn't white by accident. It's white because it carries the silver gene, and that gene is the engine that drives your sex-linking profit. The core of this business strategy relies on one very specific cross that you can replicate in your own backyard or commercial facility. We are going to use a gold or red rooster, like a Rhode Island red or a New Hampshire, and we are going to cross him with our silver white hens, specifically the Rhode Island white. When you pair these two up, you are activating a biological mechanism where the color of the chick's down tells you their sex the second they dry off in the hatcher. When these chicks finally pip and zip out of their shells, the difference is so night and day that anyone could separate them in their sleep. The male chicks will hatch out with a creamy, yellowish, or off-white down, very similar to a standard Leghorn. This is because they have inherited the silver gene from their mother. In poultry genetics, silver is dominant over gold. So when that male chick receives the S gene from his mom, it completely overrides and masks the red color coming from the dad. But here is the payday for your farm. The females will hatch out looking reddish, buff, or a deep honey cinnamon color. Why? Because female birds only get their sex-linked color gene from their father. The mother passes a W chromosome to her daughters, which doesn't carry a color gene at all. Therefore, the mother cannot pass her silver-white color to her daughters. She only gives it to her sons. The result is a tray of chicks, where the redheads are your future layers, and the yellows are your roosters. This ability to see the future of your flock the moment they are born is what separates a casual breeder from a poultry entrepreneur. Think about the massive competitive advantage of being able to offer your customers 100% sex-guaranteed pullets without having to spend years mastering the difficult and often inaccurate art of vent sexing. You aren't just selling birds, you are selling certainty. And in this industry, certainty is a premium product. From a management perspective, this means you can decide the fate of those roosters from minute one. In egg-laying lines, roosters generally aren't profitable for meat because their feed conversion ratio is terrible compared to a specialized Cornish cross broiler. Being able to pull them out immediately saves you weeks of feed costs, saves you floor space in your brooders, and frees up your labor to focus exclusively on the females, which are the ones actually providing your cash flow through future egg sales. If we look deeper into the economic impact, we have to realize that modern farming success isn't measured by how many birds you have, but by how efficient you are with every dollar of overhead. If you're hatching out 1,000 chicks a month and you can't tell the boys from the girls, you are effectively feeding 500 roosters that are probably going to result in a net loss. By utilizing the silver gene cross, those 500 roosters stop being a financial liability. You can market them as barnyard specials for families looking for cheap yard birds or simply exclude them from your long-term brooding plan. This optimizes your coop to the absolute limit, ensuring that every nipple drinker, every pound of high-protein starter feed, and every minute of your time is focused on those red pullets that will be filling your nesting boxes in just a few months. It's a precision strategy that slashes the production cost per pullet, directly fattening your bottom line. Even if you're a small-scale producer or a local breeder, this technique gives you an incredible image of professionalism. When a customer pulls up to your farm and sees that you can guarantee they are buying only females based on science rather than a gut feeling or a hunch, you've just earned a customer for life. Word of mouth in the farming community is the most powerful marketing tool there is, and being known as the guy with the color-sexed layers puts you light years ahead of the local competition. You don't need a high-tech lab, you just need to be disciplined in your selection of breeding stock. The golden rule is, the rooster must always be the gold or red bird, and the hen must always be the silver white bird. If you flip it and use a silver rooster on a gold hen, the trick fails. Every single chick will hatch out white, and you're right back to square one flying blind. Selection is the key to sustainability and long-term profit. Furthermore, this knowledge allows you to develop your own high-performance hybrids that are perfectly acclimated to your local climate. You can take Rhode Island white hens that are already hardy and used to your local weather and cross them with the best red roosters you can find, achieving not just the sex-linked benefit, but also what we call hybrid vigor. Hybrid vigor, or heterosis, makes these pullets hardier, more disease-resistant, and more consistent in their laying cycles than their purebred parents. You are creating a superior product designed to produce more eggs with less input, which is the golden rule of any successful business. Don't just settle for the theory. Put these crosses together in your breeding pens, track your hatch rates, and watch your efficiency skyrocket as you stop wasting money on mistake roosters. Diving into this level of genetic detail might feel a bit overwhelming at first, but once you see the results on your own sorting table, there's no going back. Today's poultry market demands that we work smarter, not harder. It's no longer enough to just throw some scratch grain at a flock and hope for the best. We have to control every variable possible to remain profitable. Using the silver gene versus the dominant white gene is just the tip of the iceberg of what you can achieve when you decide to professionalize your passion. Remember, information is only power if you put it into practice. Every time you pick out a breeder for your pens, you are making a financial decision that will hit your bank account months down the road. Understanding that a Leghorns white won't help you sex your chicks, but a Rhode Island white is your best friend in the hatchery, is a lesson that is literally worth its weight in gold. I want to encourage you to stop looking at your birds as just animals and start looking at them as the primary assets of your business. Study their feathers, their genetic makeup, and their crossbreeding potential with the same intensity you use to check your bank statements. The market for high-quality sexed pullets is massive, and the demand is only growing. You now have one of the most powerful tools in the modern poultry industry in your hands. Use it to scale up, use it to improve the genetics in your area, and use it to ensure that your hard work translates into a better life for you and your family. The path of a true breeder is one of constant learning, and every time you solve a puzzle like the one Mark brought up in the comments, you are one step closer to mastering the craft. Keep observing your birds, keep testing your crosses, and most importantly, keep learning. Genetics is incredibly rewarding to those who take the time to respect the science. Don't let a lack of knowledge drain another cent from your operation. Get your pens organized, identify your silver hens, and track down the highest quality red roosters you can find to start your production program today. The future of your poultry business is in your hands and in the DNA of the birds you choose. Trust the process, trust the science applied to the field, and the results will follow. It's an honor to see our community growing more professional every day, turning backyard hobbies into serious, ethical, and highly profitable enterprises for everyone involved. To your success, fellow breeder, until next time.